Now let's continue once again. If you look at the graph where the country is producing both capital, combining capital goods and consumption goods, what happened? This line, this consumption productivity curve, is what we call the potential output. You understand now? It's not all countries that can reach this potential output. The output which a country is currently going through is what we call actual output. You understand now? Actual output is what a country is actually producing given their capacity. You understand now? But potential output, which is the production possibility curve, is the output which a country can attain if it is able to efficiently, you understand, use its resources. But in a case where a country cannot reach its potential output, which is this PPC curve, it simply means the country is not using the resources efficiently. In other words, a country that is unable to reach its potential output simply means that it is underutilizing its resources. There are three ways you can actually describe it. When a country is unable to reach its potential output rather than it's just currently in its actual output, or where the actual output does not match with potential output of a country, it simply means resources are underutilized, or resources are unemployed, or resources are underemployed. Take for example a situation where Nigeria has a lot of resources, but it's unable to achieve economic growth. People are still suffering. There are still hardship everywhere. You understand now? That's what underutilization. It simply means that Nigeria is unable to attain its potential output. And in that point, Nigeria operates at F here. Look at F here, rather than any of these points along this PPC. You understand now? Again, remember, a country will always want more rather than less. So a country will actually want to move even above this to G. But at this point of G, it simply means that the country does not have enough resources to attain this height. Now let us actually dwell on this curve now. Now, in this curve, you discover that you have point A, B, C, D, E. Now, let's start from point B. At point B, look at it here. At point B, the country is producing 1 capital goods and 23 consumption goods. Now, a country can move from one point along its CPC curve to another point. What does that one imply? It simply implies that, let's take for example, if a country decides to move from point B to point C along its PPC, it simply means that the country will produce, in order for the country to move from point B to point C, it means that the country will have to increase the production of capital goods and decrease production of consumption goods. What does that one mean? It simply means that in order for the country to produce more capital goods, it has to produce less of consumption goods. In other words, it has to have a trade-off. A trade-off simply means trying to give up in order to have an extra commodity. In order to produce an extra commodity, in order to consume an extra commodity, what do? You have to give up a certain amount of another commodity. That's what I mean by a trade-off in economics. So the country have to trade off consumption goods. How many? That is from 20 to what? 20 to what? From 23 to 20. The country, in order to produce extra unit of 1 unit of from 1 to 2. 1 unit of capital goods, it has to give up about 3 units of capital goods. That's what we call opportunity cost. Thank you. Let's continue in our next video.